What's up, everybody? Smoove cosplayer here, your favorite salsa dancing cosplayer. Y'all, I got one of my favorites, local Atlanta cosplayers here with me today. I got Son of Light Cosplay with me. How you doing today, man?
Man, I'm good, bro. I'm good. I'm very good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Glad to have you on, man. So, when did you fall in love with cosplay?
Honestly, I've been a fan. I fell in love with cosplay ever since I was in 8th grade, and that was like back in, I want to say 2000s, like back in the early 2000s. So the thing is that I used to like always wanted to be a cosplayer, but me being from Mississippi, it wasn't a lot of opportunity for that kind of thing because at that time I didn't think that Mississippi would incorporate cons, conventions, or what have you. So fast forward to 2015 when I first started. That's when I basically was like, oh my God, I could actually cosplay and it's going to be amazing. So, rest is history after that, man. I've been, but I've always been an anime person, like I've always loved anime. I love, the lifestyle of being a nerd because, everybody, started off as being a nerd that was picked on in school. So,
Okay,
that was cool.
So how was that? Actually, before I get to that question, I know you mentioned Mississippi. Has the scene grown there, or is there even a scene, like a cosplay scene there now, as opposed to when you first was wanting to get into it?
Honestly, yes. The scene that in Mississippi is actually a lot more than you think because there's like 2 conventions, no, 3. There's 3 conventions down there in Mississippi. And listing them off the top of my hand or whatnot, I mean, it's kind of gonna draw into like a really long tangent. Like I can list them off like right off the bat, which is Mississippi Comic Con, Tupelo Comic Con, and of course, it was another one, but I kind of missed the name of it right off the bat. But yes, the anime culture actually kind of thrived a little bit there. It's kind of like in little bits and pieces. So if you're in Jackson, like a few people are there, and then there's a lot of people that come to the Tupelo cons and whatnot. Shout out to my Anime Blues Con fam, because if it wasn't for a lot of them, but that's the thing though, a lot of people in Mississippi are actually a lot like nervous of coming out, to being a cosplayer slash nerd of some sort.
Yeah.
And there's like literally like in my hometown, because it's in my hometown there's only like literally like 8 people in my hometown that actually cosplays, me being one of them, which is me, my cousin that I actually got him into cosplay, and then there's like literally a group of like 6 female cosplayers there, but the rest is pretty much like the same people.
Okay.
So yeah, it's really thriving there. Will it get any bigger? I'm pretty sure it will. We just gotta keep at it.
So well, you mentioned that there's a lot of people there who are kind of reluctant to come out as cosplayers. Why do you think they're reluctant to that? Because I have some ideas, but I just want to see if I'm right.
Well, the status quo for Mississippi. Let's be brutally honest though. Like when you think of Mississippi, you think of like 3 things. That's either 1, rappers mostly. Big Crit, David Banner, a lot of other people, Soulja Boy, fun fact, and they automatically assume that, when it comes to Mississippi, like cosplay and cosplayers are the thing that they pretty much rule off right off the bat, so, it's kind of like, difficult in some cases that a lot of us, that are into the, the nerd community, the nerd culture, come out and actually be like, hey, this is who I am, because it's a stereotype, they want to pretty much like, instead of being that rapper or being that model or being that basketball player or so on and so forth, they pretty much just like sweep, the nerds pretty much under the rug. In my personal opinion, I could be wrong on that though.
Okay. So, yeah, and that's what I was thinking. I just didn't want to just right off the bat assume, but I was like, yeah, it's probably more of just like a stereotype of this ain't what comes out of here. Kind of be alienated, all that kind of stuff. So okay, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
when I asked about like whether or not there was a scene in Mississippi, I kind of had a conflicting thought. You know, like off camera, we were talking about me and dancing salsa. One thing that I used to always get about salsa being here in Atlanta was that people would ask, even though I'm being in Atlanta, I knew that the scene was good. I knew that the scene was maybe not on the level of a New York or LA or Chicago. I knew it was a decent enough scene. And people from out of town be like, "There's salsa in Atlanta?" I'm like, "Yes, there is salsa in Atlanta." So I know if Atlanta can have that stigma being as big as Atlanta is, I figured, okay, Mississippi probably has an even bigger stigma being Mississippi. Like, y'all cosplay in Mississippi? What?
Yeah, I mean, it oftentimes gets swept under the rug,
Yeah.
And I honestly feel like this needs to be said or whatnot. I mean, for me, I basically, anybody asks me whenever I go to a con, like if I'm at ABC, which is the con in Memphis, if I go to AWA, Dragon Con or whatnot, and they be like, "Oh, you're a cosplayer from Atlanta?" I'd be like, "I live in Atlanta, but I'm from Mississippi," and
Yeah.
I don't want to be like Soulja Boy. I'm sorry, I keep throwing his name up in there because, like I said, there's fun facts for that, but we can talk about that off camera. But the fact is
the
that
same way I do.
well, see, the thing is though, like Soulja Boy ain't real when it comes to that, and personally, he says that he's from Atlanta. He lives in Atlanta, but he's from Batesville, Mississippi, bro.
Yeah.
Straight off, and you can edit that out actually, but no, but the funny thing is that when it comes to who I am and whatnot, I mean, I'm basically humble when it comes to that. I never want to forget where I come from. So
right.
Anybody that asks me, they're like, "Yo, you from Atlanta and whatnot?" I'm like, "Yes, I live here, but I'm from Mississippi." So
yeah,
it's more of a humbling thing,
Understood. So how would you say your journey in cosplay has been so far?
Woo! Oh man, that's a deep one. Let me
deeper than I expected. Like I know that's an open-ended question, but I feel like I'm about to open up and by all means, let all the words I can.
Honestly, no. That's a good question because to be brutally honest with you, I'm still like I love the fact that that my cosplays are actually thriving. I love the fact that people are supporting me. I love the fact that I'm basically being a staple for kids and adults alike and whatnot back in my hometown, because everybody in my hometown actually is supporting me, right? Like heavily. They didn't really support me as heavy when I was doing music at the time, but they felt like with this cosplay thing, they felt like I hit something with it. I hit the nail on the head because it pretty much exemplifies me. But at the same time, as far as how do I feel about the way that this cosplay journey is going, I love it, honestly. I love every part of it because I'm learning things about myself, more so than meeting people. Like I've met so many great people, and the people that I only thought that I could only see and interact with on Instagram or Facebook or any social media, me actually meeting them and realizing that either one, which is basically the more of that they're, they're cool, they're actually like down to earth people. And then there's those like, I want to say like 5% that is like, you meet them in person and they're like, I really don't want to deal with this person afterwards, but it was great meeting them nonetheless. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But ultimately though, I love the fact that my cosplay journey that brought me so many good things. It brought me a really great relationship with my girlfriend. And it's been wonderful ever since then. So
honestly, y'all, there's hope.
No, it's great, man. It's great. So yeah, other than that, I mean, not only have I just kind of like evolved from, just wearing a costume and whatnot to basically putting ideas together to actually making armor, and it's been a journey, I'm learning so much, and honestly, I don't think that my journey's ending sometime soon because I still feel like I'm at the basic level, if that makes any sense. I still feel like I'm in the basic level. So But it's okay. I mean, it's personally a thing that I like to keep doing because it keeps me motivated. It keeps me from, getting to that higher standard of, once the cosplayer gets to a point where, hey, I think I'm better than folks and whatever. And then that's when I personally think that, the cosplay journey ends, because then you have nothing to strive for.
Right. I definitely agree on that. I know you mentioned excuse me, that you have learned a lot. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I know my wife mentioned, she wrote an article a while back about how she being married to a cosplayer, and how she would what's the word I'm looking for? She would not clap back, but she would kind of debuff when people say, oh well, doesn't he lack maturity, or all this other kind of stuff. And she would say, no, when you cosplay, you learn all these other things. There are skills that you have to use there that you also use in real life. So that's one thing I try to tell people, this isn't just some little kiddie thing. This isn't something mature thing. This is something that, you take life skills into cosplay, and you actually learn life skills while you're in cosplay, and take them back out into life. I say that to say, what would you say what are some things you specifically learned since you've been a cosplayer, or as what have you learned through cosplaying, making your cosplays that I'm stumbling?
Honestly, patience, man. I have, for the longest time, had the biggest problem with patience. I'm always the type of person that, even when, I was doing music, that I would be so impatient to try to get something out and whatever. And, marketing skills are basically like how to post a picture and, pretty much how to get said following or what have you, and get it legitly, So it's a lot of things that I pretty much learned as far as cosplay wise. Now, has any of my crafting actually helped with anything? Yes, because it helps. Because not only building things actually help with basically my cosplay builds or whatnot, but it helps, to mitigate from depression or whatever and whatnot. And it helps with a lot of extra stuff that goes along with that. So any skill that anybody can come up with as cosplay wise, there's one thing for certain that cosplay actually works on, and it's patience.
Yeah.
You got to be patient on getting a certain costume. You got to be patient on waiting on certain items to come in so you can make sure that they work or make sure that they fit correctly, what have you. You got to also have patience when a certain item is out at a store, like a certain Ava foam is out at a store, and you got to wait a couple weeks or whatever, or you got to wait a couple days in order for you to get it, and so on and so forth. So it's really patience. That's the biggest thing that is really helpful. So.
Wow! As soon as you said patience, I was like, "Woo!" That's a whole sermon right there, man. Because I know a lot of us have some perfectionism in us, and I know for me, one thing I've had to tell myself is, you're not always gonna get it the way you want it the first time. Be okay with wearing good enough right now until you get what you want. I had to do that with my Rain cosplay. I'm about to. As soon as I move out of here and get a bigger apartment, so that way I can actually work on stuff, I'm gonna make a Rain version 3. Just certain like my domino, the chess piece wasn't the way I wanted it, but I had something that worked for the moment. And it's just sometimes you got to just let go of this ideal version of it and be like, you know what, I got something to make it work right now. And that among some other things, but like you said, patience. It'll test your patience, it'll try your patience, it'll teach you patience. It's great. What's been your most frustrating thing? Speaking of patience, the most frustrating thing you've had to deal with in your cosplays, with something not working right or whatever like that.
Honestly, when I first started building armor, the first thing I built when I made armor was my Green Ranger shield, which is the dragon shield. But I kind of formatted it to, of course, make the anti-venom Ranger. So the thing with that was the patience of it at that point or whatever. My patience was really low. I wanted this thing built today, and the most frustrating thing about that was, basically trying to get it to like warp around or whatever without having me just put it on or whatever. And luckily, thank the guys for my cousin. You know, he helped me make this work and whatnot, and he helped me at least form it to where it could go over my shoulders and stuff like that. And you know, we was kind of like brainstorming on how we're gonna be able to put it, you know, how we was gonna attach it to each other in the back. And so instead of just, you know, at least trying to slip it on or whatever, because it was a really small hole, you know, we had decided, hey, let's just go ahead and just put the slit at the back or whatever, and then be able to connect it from back there with your arms, like your forearms or whatever. So, I mean, it was at that point, you know, it got from really frustrating to, okay, this can work. This can definitely work. You know, okay. So but other armor builds after that and whatnot, I mean, I pretty much just, you know, got to the point where it's not as frustrating. So it was just my first build, which was that dragon shield. That was the biggest one that I had the biggest problem with, and it was so frustrating. I was so mad I had got done with that within a week. I got done with that in a week. Whereas every other piece after that or whatever, I pretty much got like one part done each day. You know, so it's been progress. It's been progress.
Cool. So I noticed you got Cosplay Your Way going on right here today. We all fit to be in twins because I almost wore mine today too.
You should have.
Right? What does Cosplay Your Way mean to you?
Honestly, man, when I first saw that this was actually a movement, you know, it resonated with me because, you know, when I first got into this cosplay game and whatnot, let's be brutally honest, a lot of us wanted to be our favorite cosplay, like our favorite characters.
Yeah.
But we wanted to be perfect with it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so when I saw that this was actually a movement or whatever, it brought me back to when I was back in 8th grade, and me and my cousins, we would always come up with like different character designs, different variations, different this, that, and another. But you know, when I actually saw that this was a movement, and I actually was like, yo, I actually could do a cosplay character of of the way that I wanted to. Yeah. And so that gave birth to pretty much my moniker that a lot of people call me, which is basically a mashup specialist, because I like doing mashups.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah. And my first big mashup was, of course, you know, the anti-venom ranger, but a lot of people didn't get the similarities between the two. They thought I just mashed two things up together. Actually, it has a similarity to it, because if you look at the history of Super Sentai or Power Rangers in some cases, Super Sentai actually was the birth of Spider-Man was actually the birth of Super Sentai. Believe it or not, because a lot of people wouldn't know, but in Japan they actually had like a henshin version of Spider-Man, where Spider-Man actually had a Megazord, and at that point, that gave birth to every Super Sentai from that point on to where we at now. You know, and so I really was just paying homage to it, but at the same time, I'm a big symbiote fanatic, so I was like, well, let me go ahead and try something different with this, and you know, hopefully it sticks, and it did. You know, and there is a version 3 coming up. Because version 1 was just basically like a Spider-Man face shell, and then basically the dragon shield, you know, colored in a certain way, and you know, the Power Ranger belt. Now it was just basically a more anti-venom feel to it, and then the next one is actually going to have a helmet and all the other stuff that goes along with it. But stay tuned for that though. Sorry, shameless plug, but still.
No, hey, to me, ain't no shameless plugs. You don't need to feel shame for plugging yourself. I heard that one day. I'm like, you know what? That's my model, and I'm sticking to it. It's just plugging yourself. Don't feel shameful for doing it.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I love you mentioned mashups, because you know, Masher up here, and I love yours. Like yours is mad dope. I love them. What would you say is your, how can I put this? What's like your mentality, or how do you put your mashups together? You know, you got some people who, and this is no shade to either side of this, some people just throw random stuff together, and there are some people, I know for me, like I have to have it has to make sense somehow. There has to be some kind of cleverness, some kind of joke, some reason why it mixes together. Like what do you aim for when you mix your characters together?
Well, as you said, honestly, it has to make sense. Like, for example, let's see, let me think of all the mashups I pretty much did so far. Spider Jiren. Well, technically, it's not really Spider Jiren. It's just everybody gives it that name and whatnot. And I was like, it kind of fits, but no, it's not Spider Jiren. It's more like a Pride Trooper version of Spider-Man. And if you think about it, just look at the Pride Troopers from Dragon Ball Super. Whenever they first introduce themselves into the Tournament of Power, and look at their suits. Their suits scream out, "Put me as a spider suit."
Right.
So when I thought of Spider Jiren, it was I'm sorry, that's just a staple name that everybody gives it. But when I thought of Spider Jiren or Pride Trooper Spidey, I was honestly just looking at the aesthetics for it, and that's what really brings it together, as an aesthetic. Like, okay, another example that I want to bring up, my actual avatar, which is the Son of Light cosplay, which is basically Proto Man if he was fused together with Gajia, and basically both are metal.
Okay.
Yeah, Gajia is the character from Fairy Tail. He's basically a metal dragon slayer, and basically what it is that Proto Man is basically a metal based character. He's a robot. However, he has the tendencies. In my personal opinion, he has the same tendencies as Gajia does, because both of them are unstable.
Gotcha.
And if both of them were to fuse together or whatnot, I mean, what could come out of it? And honestly, I like the concept of it. And so, metal rivets, because Gajia actually has rivets as his eyebrows, his nose piercing, his chin, even his ears, and it even gets to the point where his piercings actually go down his arms. So, the metal rivets for Proto Man, and of course the shield and whatever, because it's metal and he can pretty much just make it. It's a staple thing. So when I come up with like those kind of concepts or whatever, it has to make sense. It's something that you just can't like mash together. You just gotta have like some real thought to it and just actually make it make sense.
Right.
So instead of you having to explain it to somebody at a con or whatever, they could be like, "Oh, I get it."
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much the whole overall feel I was trying to go for when I do those.
Gotcha. I see you run into I don't even really want to call it a problem, because it's not really a bad thing, but you run into something I run into a lot too, where like you mash up a character and you have a name for it, but nobody calls it that name. You know what I'm saying? Like I did my Jules Winfield mixed with Mace Windu. I call it Jules Windu. But everybody, now I like this name. People call it Bad Motherfucking Jedi, because it's two Samuel Jackson characters, right? So I could get called that all day. And I'm like, I'm not gonna make that the official name, but I'm not mad at it though. I mentioned in my my spotlight video about my Jam Master Jedi, because the original version was purple, and I had my Mace Windu lightsaber with it, and I had a purple Wu-Tang shirt that said Windu on it. People just called me Hip Hop Mace Windu, and I'm like, that's not it, but I understand why you call it that, and I'm not gonna be mad, because I'm like, who am I to assume that you would know the name of my made up character? Like, right. Or when I do the ninja formerly known as Rain, like people always keep calling me Purple Rain, and I'm like, I get it, but Rain by himself is still purple, so I feel like that's not exclusively specific to the mashup version of this. That's why like people call it Purple Rain all day. I'm like, it's not Purple Rain. Like, I'm not gonna do that. But that's why if you ask me what the name of it is, I'm not gonna say Purple Rain. I'm gonna say the ninja formerly known as Rain. So I say that to say, yeah, I get it. Like, people gonna assign their own names to your mashups, and it just comes with the territory. Like,
I'm really bad at naming stuff anyway, so I mean, it kind of it takes the guesswork out of trying to figure out a name for it for me. I mean, yes, I'm lazy.